Welcome everyone to the Story County Amateur Radio Club meeting. A bit of a skeleton crew tonight, but that's okay. It's right before holiday, I'm sure. So we are going to do our annual SCARC Field Day review, and somehow Ted got nominated to do it, which pleased me because then I didn't have to. So, thank you, Ted.
Well, now let me see if
You are on.
Am I on? Or muted now?
Now you're muted.
Now I'm on. All right. Dandy stuff. Let's see if I can get this to work. If I can. Go like that. So the basics, of course, we did our setup on Friday, the 26th, and Saturday morning, the 27th. Start operations, as is our tradition, at 1 o'clock on Saturday, running to Sunday. And then we operated as WYL 3 Alpha, Iowa Alpha. I don't remember the last time we were 3 Alpha, but it's been several years. So that was kind of interesting.
I think dog park year.
Dog park year.
Dog park year.
And then I think we were pretty much done packing.
Go ahead and talk again.
Talk. Everything's working now.
That's odd. Jumping in. Windows.
Technology is always fun. Yeah. So we have the Coon Valley Club. I like this shot of the guys taking the hydration break because it shows us another possibility for a t-shirt if we ever decide to do a different t-shirt down the way with the Hiawatha Club. And of course, we were there. So I was really impressed by the organizational needs of pulling all this together. Thanks, Clint, and the guys from each of the other clubs for putting that together. This I thought was an interesting overview. Drone shot looking from the southwest. We have the shelter itself had both the voice station and the GOTA station, and off to the west just a little bit by the tree on the south end was where the VHF station was. The parking lot off to the left, you can see a white trailer, and that is where our CW station was. And in the other parking lot up to the north, there's a black trailer at the far end that served as our digital station. So this gives you kind of a view and hopefully helps us confirm that we had all of our antennas within a 1,000-foot radius. I was a little nervous about that.
Yeah, we were in the clear by a couple 100 feet.
Yeah, it sure makes you wonder if you got a 5 or 7 Alpha station like you hear talking on the radio, how they get all their antennas into that space. So the stations in the Henning shelter, we had our voice station using an ICOM 7300, I believe, and it had 2 antennas, 1080 off-center fed dipole, and a 10-15-20 fan dipole, and it was powered by a small gas inverter generator. And some famous people were operating that radio during the day. The CW station was the Boone County EMA trailer.
Actually, it was just Mitch's trailer.
No, the CW trailer was the Boone County.
Sorry, I just saw.
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought I saw, but never mind.
Clint's hallucinating again.
Yeah.
So we thought it was going to be the Story County trailer, but it ended up being the Boone County trailer and the Story County generator. Pat had brought in his Flex 6600M, and there was also a 10, 15, 20 Buddy Hex, which is really kind of fun to look at. And I helped just a little bit at the very beginning, but then I had to go do some other stuff. And then there was a 10 through 80 meter off-center fed dipole, which actually stretched over the road, which was probably an interesting safety feature that we didn't discuss very loudly. But it worked. And the Story County EMA diesel generator powered that station. And that's what the trailer and generator look like. And you'll see, I just did something bad.
Where's that?
Ah, goody.
Okay,
There,
don't hit it anymore.
Just by the, at the front of the trailer, you can see a little white disc up in the air. That's part of the wireless networking system. That's going to be a critical part of the success of the adventure. So I'm going to do this. Inside, look like this. Seemed to be a fairly good setup. And I didn't hear any complaints about exhaust fumes or mosquitoes or other things. It seemed to work really well. And the aforementioned Buddy Hex antenna up at its designated height seemed to work pretty well from what I could tell. So that was I think that's the first time you've had that here, Pat. Is that true at field day?
Yeah.
Yeah. The digital station on the far north of the area was a trailer provided by N0 ISU. And in there, it was an ICOM 7300 as well. Two antennas, the 10, 15, 20 meter beam, and a 10 through 80 meter end-fed half wave. And that was a small propane as opposed to gasoline inverter generator. We don't get any points for having different fuel sources for our generators, but I think that was something. Yeah, kind of neat. The fun of putting up the beam, that worked pretty well. And there it is up. And once again, next to the trailer, just to the left, there you can see that white rectangular object, part of the wireless system. And on the inside, there's Ron working on the digital station. I think I didn't go in there very much, but it seemed like it was a comfortable enough setup and people enjoyed using it. Mike, you were in there a bit, and that worked pretty well from what I could tell. So that was a nice setup as well. The VHF station. There was a canopy, as I mentioned before, by the Henning shelter. Paul was using, Paul brought in an ICOM IC7000, used the 6 meter Moxon, and was using battery and solar power to run that. And that was good for another 100 bonus points. So thank you for powering it in that alternative manner. That was great. And there he is in action.
And we needed that the floor is what, 5 to get that point?
10.
It's per contact up to 10. Okay.
So he exceeded the need. That was great. And if it's very hard to tell, but in the upper left-hand corner, just under the canopy, you can see another white rectangular object, longer, taller than wide, and that's the third. I think it'd be the third wireless. There were 4. Ah, okay. So it's part of the network. And the point is, I wanted to point that out, that the networking worked very well, from what I could tell. I don't know if I heard any complaints about the networking. Linked all of the stations together, and everyone was able to use the N3FJP logging software. The equipment was Ubiquity equipment provided by Paul and Mitch from the BARC Club, and that we also had a public Wi-Fi with live internet via Starlink. Who provided that? Was that you, Pat? That was Mitch. Okay. Thank you, Mitch. and a separate network for logging. So it was a very nice setup for the networking this year. Big plus as far as I was concerned. And the GOTA station was on the north side of the Henning shelter using a Kenwood TS590 and a 10 through 80 meter end-fed half wave going off the same gas inverter generator as the voice station. And that's what it looked like. And that's some of the characters who at least hung out at the GOTA station. I have another shot of someone, actually one of our youth participants making a contact. So, of course, the observation, you can never have enough antennas. One. And how many other antennas did you have available, Pat? At least two. Oh, yeah. Yeah, at least two. And digital trailer. That worked out pretty well, though. I didn't hear any problems once the antennas were up. I didn't hear of any problems with the antennas, but I'd be interested to hear any comments once we get to the plus minus delta. So some of the numbers. 470 voice, 378 CW, 303 digital. Were those all FT8? And FT4, okay.
Did Margaret make any digital contacts? She was scheduled to, and Mitch said she wanted to use FL Digi, so I assume she was using like.
There's possibility for those that can't hear that some FL Digi was going on as well. 11 contacts at the VHF station, and we had, I believe, 3 at the GOTA station. So a nice variety. It breaks down like this. There was some activity on 80 meters. I'm guessing maybe that was Margot at night. 40 meters worked pretty well on all modes. 20 meters worked pretty well on all modes. Some work on 15 and 10, and then the VHF station with 11 contacts. It appears I've gone down below the limits, but we'll pull that back up. So we had 1,151 total contacts. And when you put the multipliers in place, you get points of shown here, 470, 756, 606 for digital. And there's a power multiplier because of the way our station was set up, and we used with no shore power at all. We ended up with 3,664 contact points. Bonus points. We got some bonus points, 1,185, because we achieved each of these different things. And so that was pretty good. You'll see in just a little while how it compares to previous years. The
Mayor Sheridan.
So we had no one that I invited was able to attend, and a couple of the state senators and representatives did write back to say they probably wouldn't make it. It's an election year. I get it. They're kind of busy. But, you know, there are a lot of other folks, elected officials, mayors and council people and all that could have come. And I think all of the clubs contacted elected officials in their respective counties. It didn't yield much, but typically it doesn't. We did leave a few points on the table. Message section. I know that Laura had put together a message. Something happened where it wasn't able to go out. She had done that last year. She was going to do it again this year, and it just simply didn't happen. It's too bad. Message handling, we didn't do. Educational activity, safety officer, and satellite QSO, though I would say there were several attempts made. And that to me is probably the toughest thing to do at field day from what I've seen, trying to make a contact on satellite. It's awfully busy. It's a real art form to begin with, and when you have that much competition, it can be tough. So, but at least the effort was clearly being made. So, total points. contact points with the multipliers and power multiplier, 3,664. Bonus points, 1,185 for a total of 4,849 points. There we are. But remember, and Pat will tell you that this is not a contest.
Is there a start time? Is there a finish time? Rules? Do they publish those results?
There's a debate about whether or not it's a
So,
contest.
did we win?
Yeah, yeah. And if we won, what's the prize? Here are the folks. We had 14 people who were on the report that I got. Speaking of winning, Pat won, accounting for 27% of the contacts that were made. But you can see the various folks that were working over the 24-hour period. Countries contacted. Of course, there's the U.S., which I kind of, even though the N3 FJP report shows Hawaii, Alaska, and Puerto Rico as separate entities, there's that. But and Canada, which you kind of expect. But European Russia, Indonesia, I don't remember I've ever seen an Indonesia report on field day. But that's pretty cool. Japan, Costa Rica, and Germany. So we did have some DXs. And here's what the map looks like. We had pretty good coverage throughout the US, exception being Idaho, and most of the provinces, including Newfoundland and Labrador, which I thought was very cool. But somehow we weren't doing very well directly to our north. So, but overall, I thought we had a very good coverage. And visitors, we had some folks stopping by, including some youth, which is very good. It turns out that this was a student of Dagny, a member of the club, who came by, and Clint was able to walk him through making a contact at the GOTA station. So I thought that was extremely nice. And I point out these other folks because a ham came up to us and said something to the effect of how nice we were. I mean, he talked to a couple people, and he was really impressed by the openness and friendliness of everyone who was there to talk through issues or talk about equipment and things like that. So I think that was very much appreciated, and these gentlemen accompanied that particular ham. So, comparison of recent years in some detail. 2024, I was able to look back. I found in the mail, I found on groups.io, I found a copy of the presentation. 1,161 contacts, pretty similar to this year overall. Contact points were a little different because it depends on how many voice versus digital or CW. Had a lot of bonus points that year, and so we ended up with 3,807 points. Last year, we were down a bit with 1,008 points, and this year with 4,849. Total contacts, just contacts over the last few years, going back to 2016. We're missing a data point in 2020. COVID year. Yeah, good catch. Yeah, that's right. So we just got this data put in this evening, so we didn't have a chance to put it in graphical form, but you can see every year is up and down just a little bit. But we're in a good place, relatively speaking, in the top 3 of the last 11 years.
We are not consistent, are we?
No. No.
I have a lot of swings one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Every year something new. So that's all I had in terms of stuff I want to talk about in terms of setting it up. But now, of course, we have to ask, well, how did it go? What were the good points? What were the things that we could have done better? And what do we want to think about getting set up for next year? Dave was standing at the VHF station. I just happened to take a snapshot of him. It was just perfect. Like, what are these guys doing? So
you did bring up a good point, though, that I know that the park staff, both the ranger and the park manager, had lots of questions about what the heck's going on down there at the shelter.
Yeah. This is not the normal activity on a a weekend at Ledger State Park. So yeah, we were noticed, I believe. So that's all I got. I'm going to turn this over to Clint, I guess, to do the plus minus delta so we can think about how do things go. With that, I'm going to see if I'm going to do my best to scribe that down. If I can figure out how to mute that puppy.
I'm on now. That one's off. Currently muted. Okay. So, let's see. You had a couple of things on there that triggered. You said ask about the rotator. So,
Is that going to be a plus, a minus, or a delta?
I think it's a minus because it didn't work. But for whatever reason, it only went clockwise. So.
And
No, that's
and
counterclockwise.
then only with assistance.
Yeah. No, it turned on its own.
Oh, did it eventually?
Yeah, it eventually would turn, but it wouldn't come back. So, Dave has the club rotator and controller. He's going to hand off to me, and I'll put that in the attic instead of the one I have that came from Chuck, and we'll figure out what's up with the one I have and if it's repair or what. Unfortunately, the label on the back of it came off or was never there. The wires were never labeled, so on the fly, we had to interpret how the wires went on by looking inside the top of the rotator. So we need to figure out the labeling so that we can, on the fly, or get connectors so that we don't have to deal with trying to figure out what color goes to which screw. You said the networking worked well overall. Unfortunately, when we shut down the trailer at night, which was the plan, the diesel generator, we don't need a 15,000 watt generator to run a network switch. But unfortunately, when that went down, we weren't able to log any contacts at the phone station. So George pivoted and just wrote them all on a notebook. And then we re-entered them on the 6-meter station Sunday morning. And you had the pleasure of adjusting the times. It couldn't be too much work.
I have not adjusted the time yet.
You let me know if you want me to do it. It's no big deal. But
it's a multi-step process unless you do it manually, which is
I didn't want to do it on the moment by going in and editing every contact and changing the time.
right.
So we just threw them in with the wrong times. No, I don't know about Mitch's. Yes, they ran all night because he woke up when the power went out on his. The Honda from Aries we shut down. No, it was off maybe like half an hour because George shut it off and then I turned it back on when I got there. So it probably did run all night.
Shut down.
Right, yeah, we just didn't need to run that. So we need to think about setup and battery backup or
UPS or something.
yeah. Yeah. Right, we could just had it run on a charger, and when the generator shut off, it just switched over to battery and just kept going all night. That would have been fine. We just didn't think about it. Oh yeah. So the generator died. The switch kept going, but as soon as the generator was turned back on, it kicked the GFCI that the thing was plugged into, and then it died. So then that took us about 10 minutes to figure out to get the network back up. Yeah. So he had never had a problem ever with the GFCI, so it was good that he figured that out and knows that that's going to be a problem for him. So alternatives would be we could just log separately because we never would have had a conflict because the phone station stayed phone, the digital station stayed digital, the CW station stayed CW. There never would have been a dupe between the stations. We could have just run 3 independent computers, but we lose the ability to track bands and the message between the stations if we were to do that. So I don't know what the right solution is. Probably keep going the way we've done. Just make sure we have alternative power UPS options figured in.
And I've done that in years past. I
Yeah.
didn't consider that we would shut down that generator.
Right. Just it was the right thing to do because we just don't need to run that thing all night for what it was.
Yeah.
That's a lot of diesel. So um
On that topic too, let me
Yep.
just throw in here one minus is that the I couldn't find the PC that I'd used in the past for the logging server. So Thursday night at 11:30, I ended up pulling a PC out of a box and quickly trying to configure it. I did not configure N3FJP to auto start on boot or to automatically restore power on power restore or to boot on power restore in BIOS. So those are some notes that for next year, we just need to make sure that
Yeah.
the server will fully auto start itself. I did have it set to auto log in, so that wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
But I'd forgotten to do the power, boot on power restore
Yeah.
and auto start in 3FJP.
I will attribute our lack of preparedness on the networking, probably the fact that we didn't do a pre-day network run through that we'd normally been doing.
It definitely didn't help.
Yeah, and so we were going to do it Friday night. We didn't have all of the equipment, so we pivoted and did it Saturday morning, and it turned into a just-in-time, it works, let's go kind of operation. So we went against our own better judgment when we did that. But it was just the fact that we were bringing equipment from multiple people together, and it just seemed a little harder than just club members getting together, the week before field day. So it was a necessary evil that it came back to haunt us. But we'll work through it. We realized that it happened. We didn't lose any contacts, just slowed down a little bit. Let's see.
The four clubs coming together to run field day together was a real positive. If we don't do it every year, I'd like to see that become something in the rotation where we would work together. I thought that was a good opportunity. Got to meet some people, learned that there's some real nice talent out there in different areas. So
Yeah.
Real positive event as far as I was concerned.
Yeah. I think some of the other leaders were disappointed in their turnout from their members. So yeah.
So I only got to stop by for a few hours, but I was impressed with the way you guys had organized, introducing people and answering questions and steering them to people to talk to them. I think, Ted, you did a fantastic job while I was there being kind of the greeter and channeling people towards people that could ask questions. So I thought some of the people we had visited were from pretty far away in the state. So I thought it was good to I thought the greeter, because I was going to call him the Walmart greeter, but I thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that. I sent a screenshot to Ted, but I went and looked on the ARRL map of places you could go that had a field day activation, that they've got an online map. There's really not a lot from Ames all the way to like Omaha. There's kind of a big void in the state.
Well, we pulled all the clubs to ours, right?
Well, kind
We
of.
pulled the
but-
Foon Valley Club from Audubon.
I mean, if you went eastern half of the state, it's all sprinkled pretty uniformly. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a gap between,
Yeah.
western half of the state, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow I knocked it out and didn't realize it.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't have to include it, but it just struck me that, again, to your point, Ted, I think, offering this up to other clubs and people who are part of a club that's really not doing anything, or they don't have the resources, or they're, I think this was a fantastic idea. So just kudos to you guys for pulling this together.
It wasn't without its challenges, but it helped that we had a very good structure that we could just bolt them into. We did offer it to the Des Moines Club. They opted to do their own thing, which is the same thing. And there was in some conversations I've had, there were some people in their club that weren't happy with that decision. And so, yeah, they really thought they should have participated. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do in the future. I know I was at a meeting once where somebody said, for Des Moines, we'll stop going to the museum when more people show up. And somebody said, we'll stop going to the museum and more people will show up. So they had a chicken and the egg situation going down there. But let's see. So the digital part, the messaging that didn't go, I want to say that it was the computer crashed. Mitch pivoted, grabbed another work computer, loaded some software on to get FT4 going again, but it didn't have the setup to run WinLink, which is how they were going to send these messages. So that's why they didn't do all of the messaging to the section manager or all the other message handling. Was they had it all written out, it just didn't make it out before that crash.
And the cause of that was deferred updates, was that right?
He told me he did the updates like Thursday, then he paused the updates, and somehow they tried to run again. And so when it updated the BIOS, it crashed.
Which relates to a whole thing that Microsoft is revoking certificates and
Yeah. So
UEFI on a whole thing. So
yeah. So like Thursday, I ran all the 3 laptops I brought. I ran them all through several cycles of updates to make sure that they were sitting happy, and then put it on a week delay. And they never got squirrely. But that's the benefit and the curse of having the computers on the network. We've always said we don't want the internet anywhere near the logging computers because they can't download an update if they don't have the internet. And in that case, they had the internet and they downloaded an update and it caught us. So there's a reason why we'd always had that rule. But it was nice to have, you can put it's positive. It was nice to have internet because the network was so bad for cellular at that area. It's always been bad. It will always be bad down there.
no, I would agree that was a huge positive.
Mhm.
Looking at it, maybe we isolate that subnet so that it doesn't get to the internet. It's not routed.
Yeah, no, it was Mitch's computer, and so he was probably playing both sides,
Yeah.
And it was his network. So I'm not sure how that got configured on there, but
I have 2 other things written down on the positive just for fun, I guess. I thought the trailers worked well. I think everyone thought that was a good setup.
oh,
Well, the refreshment table at the CW trailer was not adequately stocked. And then the power systems worked as intended. There are some issues to work out in terms of when you shut things down and the impact of shutting them down and all that sort of stuff. But it seemed like as they were running, they ran well, and we didn't have any hiccups during the day or anything
Yeah.
else. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a positive. In general, things worked well.
Not having to refuel the generator at the trailer.
Yeah.
Was nice.
Mhm.
Refueling was not refueling was very nice.
I did help Mitch change the fuel bottle on his generator
Yeah.
Saturday evening. And then he said, I think it ran out at like 5 a.m. That's what woke him up, was the other one ran out.
I think Mitch started off with 3 tanks, and I think he maybe used all 3 of them, or pretty well through all.
He ran into town and filled one of them
Oh, wow.
at one
So,
point.
some refills.
Yeah. I think I filled the Honda twice. It was full, and I filled it twice through the day. So about 8 hours for the tank was roughly what we ended up getting. So
And then again, with the VHF station running on battery with a solar charger there, one of the things I have written down under Delta, I'd like to see if we could do something to do more with that, doing more with alternative power, or alternate power, I guess it's called. It's nice to have the generators and so forth, but it would also be kind of a fun challenge, I think, to see how much else we could do with batteries. I don't know what kind of capacity we have with individual members, but that might be something of a challenge if we thought about it in advance and worked on it a little bit.
honestly, I'd like to see like a groundswell of effort to get the ARRL to change the rules
Right.
to allow battery power credit to count for 100 watts. Because currently, if you run over 10 watts, you get no credit for running battery power. And I know we could do the whole thing on battery power if we tried.
Yeah, there's no benefit currently in the rules to running a full power station on battery.
And it just seems with this day and age and all of everybody who's running around doing 100 watts in battery, we ought to be able to do that. So that may be a project for us in the future. to try to get them to change their rule.
Yeah, use your SEC contacts to
Yeah.
pull that
Right.
lever.
Yep. Okay. So, any more positives, things that you really enjoyed? I got some other stuff we'll talk about, but
Lunch, Saturday.
yeah. 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 It was really kind of tough, and I don't know. I need to ask those guys how they came out on funds, because I know that George brought a lot of food that didn't get eaten. And the idea we were hoping was a week before we would have a number and they
Yep.
could buy to that number, and we would sell tickets so we wouldn't have to deal with money on site, because we knew that the internet was going to be a concern. And it just turned into they just kind of winged it and guessed at a number and bought food and hoped that they covered their expenses and that people donated money. So same with what Mitch did. He had more burgers in the cooler, he said, but I think he cooked almost exactly the number he needed. So that took a little longer because it was a smoker and not a full-on grill. But they were really good, but it just was a little slow. So yeah. Yeah, that's a
The raccoons liked it.
that's a minus or a delta. So George was operating overnight by himself in the shelter, had his headphones on, and he heard something. He turned around, and the raccoons had tipped over the trash box with the liner in it and had dragged all the trash out. And so he cleaned it up and stood them back up. And next thing, the noise he hears, they knocked it over again. And so at that point, he just said, "Fine, have at it." And they licked that pan of beans clean, because I picked it all up that next morning, cleaned up all the trash, and so they were, that bacon in there. So had I thought of it, I would have stopped at the shop and just grabbed some metal trash cans, and we could have used those. But I didn't think about the raccoons when I grabbed those cardboard boxes. So, trash. Thinking about trash and wildlife is something we're gonna have to consider for the future. Let's see. We were gonna do brunch on Sunday. Nobody else wanted to step on that one. And Hy-Vee wanted 3 days notice to bring in biscuits and gravy. It was really cheap. It was like $3 a person for one biscuit and $4 a person for two biscuits. So it was going to be really cheap. They were going to charge $10 to deliver it to the park. I mean, it was going to work, but we just had to know 3 days ahead what the number was, and we just couldn't do that. So honestly, when Mitch asked me about pizza Sunday morning, there was like 4 or 5 people around. So it wouldn't have been that many people. So maybe Sunday brunch is just not going to be enough bodies around. It did seem like there was a lot of people Saturday afternoon, and that was kind of the heavy time. So Saturday lunch, Saturday dinner even fell off quite a bit. So when we think about food, we'll have to consider that.
I will say it wasn't for lack of trying on the ticketing system.
No,
I mean, I'll use it for other things. I ended up even going so far as buying the pro version of the plugin that I use at $125 to try to get it to work, and still struggled with the PayPal integration. So, yes.
Yeah, we had all the best intentions and just kept getting roadblocks. So we pivoted, and I think it worked. We made the best of what we had, and so
Not ideal.
yep. But
No,
Yeah.
it was.
Right. Yeah.
It
was supposed to be
everything I could try.
easy.
It was supposed to be easy. It's
Yeah.
worked for everything in the past, but
Yeah.
I haven't used it. Here's the problem. I haven't used it in 2.5, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And PayPal changed their integration and things didn't place nicely.
Yeah.
They've got a much smoother integration with Stripe, but Stripe requires all kinds of financial verifications that I'd already had in place with
Yeah.
PayPal. So
We really didn't want to have what happened, which is like people owe us money and you have to show up with the exact change and try to make change, and Venmo's not going to work, and I don't have Venmo, and so, like, who's going to deal with the money? And it was multiple clubs that had to collect money. I think a lot of other groups, something to think about. The clubs just cover the food. It's just a field day expense. They cover the food, and That's just it. And anybody who's there gets to eat. And then, maybe you pass the hat around. I don't know, but that's something to think about just to simplify it. It still doesn't solve our overbuying or underbuying problem that having an RSVP does. I did look briefly at the idea of doing free Eventbrite tickets. So you could RSVP with a ticket for lunch, a ticket for supper, pay no dollars, show up and say, I owe 13 for all the meals. But I was going on vacation. It didn't happen. So that was just an idea that came up that didn't go anywhere. So
Yeah, because Eventbrite was several dollars plus like 5% or something.
yeah, to buy real tickets through the websites, it was going to cost a couple of bucks a ticket to do that. And it was just ridiculous. So yeah. Yeah. So, the meals I think it's good to strive for that, but I think we're going to have to get someone who wants to take that on as a duty and not put it back on the people that were already doing stuff. And that's just a lot to ask. But yeah, the one guy showed up Saturday for morning, cooked lunch, packed up and went home. Then he was perfectly happy with that was his role. So
yeah, he was all set up for it. It was kind of cool.
Yep.
He had the
He was
chafing
definitely
dishes and the
yeah, he was a caterer.
menu board and the whole thing. So
Yep. So the pivot was Thursday. Basically got a text from Melissa that said, we were talking about getting the trailer back Monday and me coming to help her. And she said, I talked to Chris and Boone EMA. He can bring his trailer. Let's just use that one. So that's how the pivot happened Thursday afternoon. It was like, okay, one trailer is as good as another. Honestly, I think that trailer layout works better for us than the one we've been using. Yeah. Yep. And it's pretty new. They've only had it a few months ready to go. And so they were kind of looking for an excuse to get it out and dust some stuff off. And so, yeah, that was nice. Do we have any RFI issues from the diesel generator, do we think?
I don't know if I'm gonna put this down as a minus. Oh, sorry, Paul. Put this down as a minus or things, at least for Pat to think about for next year for the CW station. Probably needed to have more separation from the buddy hex to the trailer. With where it was located and pointing in the direction, kind of almost toward the trailer, there was some RFI on 20 meters. I think I narrowed it down to not being the generator. I think it was the Ubiquity network, because when we powered that off, we could get it to go away. And we did not see the same interference on the off-center fed dipole, which worked fantastic and was quiet. So I think a little bit more separation would have solved that, or pointing the antenna in a different direction. So that's one thing. Anything else to say about that antenna wise? I don't think so. I think generally the CW antennas worked well. Could have also set up the 40-meter array, but that stayed in the car and probably would have needed more setup time.
Yeah.
I've got some mental notes about using the flex again, like people that haven't used a flex before, parachuting in the middle of the night and trying to figure it out. It's a little intimidating. So I maybe want to rethink that whole thing. And I wound up doing kind of, I think like you had said earlier, Clint, with some of your setup stuff, try to get things configured and running and tested, and like this isn't working, and you wind up doing a lot of just-in-time stuff at the last minute. And I need to prepare for that better, I think.
Yeah.
I was winding up chasing configuration ghosts and a bunch of that kind of stuff as a contest was getting going. So that's something I got to rethink.
You had to, while I was visiting and a couple other people in the trailer, you had to use the headphones because
yeah. So that was another thing I was going to bring up. So thanks, Bill. It's hard to hear in the trailer with the AC units running and people standing behind you and talking. And if you're trying to go through the speakers and like, it's really difficult to hear. So I have to plug the headphones in, but then people can't hear. Like I know Kent liked to listen in to the contacts that were being made. So that's all stuff that we can figure it out. And I tried to, I had an audio splitter, but I couldn't get that to work. So we need to figure out how to do that. So both the operator can have headphones on and spectators can listen if they want to in some way. And anything else? Oh, the one other thing, I don't know if this is really a minus or just something to think about. By Sunday morning, mid-Sunday morning, I kind of dried up. What was it? 40 meters and 10
10.
meters. And the other two stations were on 20 and 15. And so if we could have come up with a better way to rotate bands and kind of refresh things, I think we could have got a lot more QSOs because
Yeah.
things really slowed down when you kind of tapped a band out. So just a few thoughts.
And I'll say kind of on the flip side of that, I know that the phone station struggled on Saturday.
Yeah.
Because they were on 40
Yeah.
and 10,
So if we
because CW was on 20. So when it finally came around that they got 20, yeah, so
Yeah.
not sure how that's something that we've always struggled with is, do we interrupt a station that's in the middle of a run because it's time to switch bands and give the other station a fair shake? Or, how does that work? So I don't have an answer to it. That's something to definitely put down though.
I have an answer.
Yeah.
Throw nothing out. Here's a plus thing that worked well was the separation between the stations was better than I think we've ever had, at least that I've been a part of. So reducing interference. I can remember a lot of years where trying to operate, and even though you're on a different band and you've got bandpass filters, you're just hearing tons of spillover of the other stations. And I didn't hear any of that this year. It almost makes me wonder, with enough physical separation like that, and if we got the right filtering in, could we have a phone station and a digital or CW on the same band at the same time? If we really looked into some spectacular filtering, and you'd have to have the right radios for it too. I don't think 7300 won't do it.
Station, we ended up in bandpass filters because we were picking up CW.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the 7300. So
Yeah.
we would need filters and
A
the
good
right radio.
A good
Yeah,
radio.
Those
7300
is not the radio
Right.
to try to do that.
Yeah.
If you want to entertain this a little more,
Yeah.
there's a great episode of the Ham Radio Workbench podcast where
I
they
heard those
talked.
guys.
They had a whole episode about how they do these multi-station field days.
Yep.
And the secret is great radios and all the antennas are in the same plane. And they're all dipoles.
Yeah.
So they have one line of antennas of dipoles end to end. So they're all in each other's knolls. That is the key.
I mean, you could do it with Yaggies. If I had turned my buddy hex to point away from you guys instead of right at you guys, and if you guys had, I think you could do it. But the 7300 is never going to get there.
No.
So
No, absolutely. That was very key, was that you had to have a better radio, and that is not that. It's good for 364 days a year. It is not a great field day radio, but I've been willing to bring it out, and
it works well.
Yeah,
So
it's
everybody knows it. It's
Yep.
easy to use.
So
it works well enough.
yeah. So we'd have to like bend some arms to get some better radios, and then I know that several people made comments that they saw a lot of adjustments being made on my radio on the fly, compression and mic gain and everything else. And so knowing that people like to turn knobs on radios, that's a consideration if you're going to bring a radio out that have everybody poking buttons. And we've had some 756s over the decades that got smoked during field day because people were doing weird things. So it is a risk. But yeah, I really thought about, we've talked about in the past, could we put two stations on 20, what that would look like. And I think it's going to take the right setup where we can get them, I think it's dipoles in the same plane to make that work. And so, yeah, it would not be easy, but it would solve that problem. It would be harder here, but easier there. So were you good with headphones and the air conditioning as long as the headphone thing? Have you seen the amplifier with all the knobs on it we've been running on the other station? It's like a 4-channel mixer.
It's a 4-channel mixer.
Audio mixer.
Little mini. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can tell you that the way I set it up this year, it didn't work. And we think the problem is there's a ground loop between the powered amplifier, the powered speaker, but they're not grounded to anything. And we had success running it on its own battery, but we didn't run it on its own battery this time. I just plugged it in where the radio was plugged in. And so I think that was the problem. It was feeding that ground loop back onto the negative line. So that's something we need to think about when we deploy those, is isolating the power for that.
If I'd known that, I had a 12 amp hour battery.
I did
could have
too,
shoved it on.
but it didn't
So,
think of it till after we had just taken it out of the system.
that's fair.
And I never ran a logger with me, so I didn't need it. Other people weren't running loggers at that point. So you were hearing yourself like you had the monitor on. So we had to turn the monitor up just so you could hear yourself, because it was better than hearing the echo of yourself. So then people are complaining, the monitor's on. I'm like, yes, we know what the monitor's on. You turn it off, you're going to complain about something else. So, things to work through. Let's see, what else did we have that you mentioned? Yeah, so let's talk about antennas at the other stations. I thought that the off-center fed dipole and the fan dipole combination worked pretty good for the phone station. That seemed to cover all their needs. They weren't really wanting for a band that they didn't have an antenna for. I don't know what the GOTA really ran, if they were really running that end-fed the whole time, or I know, Paul, at one point you switched them over to something else.
Well, yeah, so before the end-fed was up, they didn't have any antenna, they thought.
I agree.
But we had
Right,
two
they-
antennas hung. One was the fan dipole and one was the off-center fed. And I said, well, we've got antennas. We can't put both antennas on the same radio. So,
Yeah.
Run your coax over here instead. And we got them on the fan dipole.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that I don't think Jason's son made a contact, because I never saw it in the log.
okay.
He was the young kid that was there at 1 o'clock. I never saw anything logged for him. So I don't think we got a picture of Andy working the couple stations, but it would have been neat to get him in his DNR uniform sitting at the radio. No, I never saw her after Friday. I don't even know, was she even out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
She was just hanging out, chilling.
okay. So as for the digital station, did they ever do anything but 15 meters on that beam? Okay.
A little bit of 10 at the end of the day, but it was mostly to try it out. About the only thing I'd say about that is, without having the rotor, we really didn't test whether you get a better rate in one direction or the other. Given it's a 2-element beam, it's pretty wide anyhow.
Yeah.
So
Did anybody try to turn it back the other way?
I didn't.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody did. I mean, if Mitch did or not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
15
think
meters, the signals were great all the time.
right.
Then I'd say the contact rate was pretty stable. Not too many dry periods.
Page back, Clint. I'm curious, did we work keep going, anything but digital on 15? One more, I think.
There we go.
Okay, we did.
That was quite a bit. Yeah. They had 40 meters, some 80 meter. So I'm not sure when that was, if that was Mitch overnight.
Yeah.
That could have been because he was out there all night, and I think George was bouncing around too.
Okay.
So
I was just curious.
the overnight, that might have been what was going on. Yeah. So yeah, I think we could have turned the thing if we'd have just had somebody hold the button down and then drug it back the other way. I think it would have turned. But anyway, yeah, that beam seemed to work pretty well for him. So I thought that the end fed is a compromise of here's the other antenna if you need it, was a low effort solution. So I think that worked out well. Got to pair those two. Let's see, what else? Oh, so every year we have problems with shutdown. whenever we try to do a full run, it's inevitable we don't have good handover procedures. And the thought has crossed my mind that maybe we should just declare a stop time so that somebody can be there to take the keys and know that they're where they put the keys, and we instruct the next person who's scheduled to be back where the keys are to get that back in. Because when it's like, oh, it's 2, I'm tired, I'm going to bed, what do they do for shutdown? And we've had this problem. I walked into the Red Cross office in Ames at 6 a.m. and then all the lights are on and there's nobody there. The doors are open, all their computers, all their case files are sitting out.
So Mike and I actually did that at the field day that he chaired, up in, Zering.
That just,
He and I shut it down and we both set it back up the next morning.
right.
So it was.
And we've done that, I think, at the vet school. We did that, I think. We put everything in the trailer and went home. It seems like.
Yeah, I
One
don't
year.
remember. I know,
Yeah.
well, I'm not sure on that one. Maybe we did.
But we need to think that through. If we can't get people to commit to being there all night, then we need to maybe just turn it off and say, if you can't commit to being here, you can't be here. And we just shut it off because,
Correct.
yeah, right. Like that's part of it is if you're working the last shift, you have to be able to shut the station down, and we're going to give you instructions on what to do. I have a key box that's like put 4 digits in, and you put the keys inside, and we can utilize that if we need to do a handoff that's not the same person in and out. But we need to think through those shutdown procedures if we can't find operators that are committed to being there for the night.
Well, and it's not just turning things off. That's the key. It's,
Yeah.
you know, if it's securing the equipment, for
Right.
instance.
That is honestly, that's it. I mean, we could leave stuff running. It's that I don't want anything stolen, you know? And so I don't know what the right answer is, but it is a concern that we need to think through at some point. Okay. Were there any more?
Is there anyone online that has any feedback?
Let's see.
I'm
I
not
don't see
seeing,
any hands up.
I'm not seeing anyone raise their hands. If you do, and you're online, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll
Yeah. I'll try to keep an eye on that over there.
take the feedback. I've been trying to watch it here, so.
Yeah. So, let's take a break for this for a second and just talk through. It's probably a discussion for a bigger group than this. Sorry, guys. But one thing we will want to decide is if we want to try to do the multi-club thing again. What's that look like? Is that a next year thing? Is it a future thing? You know, I don't think anybody thought it went poorly,
No,
but it was just a function of, do we want to try to do that more? I think the other clubs were sort of inspired by what we were able to do because I think our setup was a little more elaborate and a lot more organized than what they had done in the past. But it worked for them because they were smaller groups. So they didn't need to do the organization that we've always done over the years. So
I think the consideration to a multi-club event is where to hold it. And we've always taken the stance, and I really like it personally, that we don't do field day at the same location twice in a row unless we can absolutely help it. So finding something that would be central for multiple clubs might be a little more challenging. Legends was great with facilities, with the cost, with, you know, even with a special use permit, it was what, $50
yeah,
total? I mean, we spent
Yeah.
more than $50 in years past on the Kaibo.
yeah.
So
So I could throw out the concept that the Oakwood shelter is supposed to be done in the next month. It would be different, but it would be centrally located. We just moved to the top of the hill. We set up at Oak Woods. You could put one of the stations towards the campground entrance and that kind of that circle parking lot that I can't think what they call it, but
up by the gazebo there.
kind of by the gazebo. Yeah. And so that would be within the 1,000-foot circle. You could maybe put another station past the bathrooms to be in the middle and kind of line them out. And that might be an option to kind of do field day in the same centrally located, but not the same thing.
Oh, so the question was, the thought process behind why not the same location? And it really comes down to, I think there's more learning that happens when we're having to adapt to a different location. Versus we always set this here. A good example is, the extension 4-H building. We always knew the antenna got strapped here and the station went here, and we had the run of or the run of, Ethernet that was the right length that went between the two stations. It works well, but we're not learning and adapting and dealing with problems and solving problems really on the fly. So
But maybe there's a variation of that, just given what we were just talking about with antennas on the same plane and locations and stuff. Maybe it's okay to do 2 years in a row at the same place to see if you can improve on what you learned from the year previous, and then you go to another
Yeah.
spot as well.
Yeah, optimize it second year.
Yeah.
yeah, optimize the second year.
Yeah, part of. You better. You catch that
We'll be
call?
at the same. We'll be at the same location for a long time then, Dave.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
for
I heard
everybody
that.
online, he says you got to be at the same location until you get up over. Well, that would be the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that we actually did that when we were extension 4-H, or Red Cross, but
Yeah. Field day is partially an emergency communications exercise. And so doing the same thing is not really preparing for that. So that's why we've kind of tried to move it around.
but Oak Woods would satisfy that need even in the same park.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because there was some concern about the hill and the takeoff angle to the east. I don't think we observed any problems with it. And when we done POTA stuff out there, we hadn't
I
observed.
mean, I was
the hill.
working Connecticut on 6 meters, so if takeoff angle was an issue, that would have been.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So we need to think that through in the future. Not terribly long, because we don't want to, we need to get the permit again and all of that.
Well, and I think the other thing that we need to throw out is, and again, it's a small group here, but who wants to take on field day chair next year?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think they should have, some say in what their field day looks like. Just
Right.
as you did this year.
Yeah.
I want it to be a multi-club event. I want it to be this larger gathering, and I'm gonna take it on as a leader. So.
Right.
Not asking necessarily for a commitment here tonight. I don't think you are, but,
I mean, I'll take it if somebody's crazy.
if somebody wants to raise their hand and say, I'll do it.
But yeah, I think there is some validity to the field day chair gets to kind of put things together the way they want to see it,
But we do need a field day chair for 27.
Yeah. And then we'll have to decide whether we want to do a multi-club effort
Correct.
or not. Okay, back to this. Did we trigger any plus minus delta thoughts, Ted?
I was a little disappointed that we had 4 counties represented. We didn't have any county EMA or any county law enforcement here that I saw. We had someone from Polk County, perhaps.
Do you count Friday morning?
No,
Okay, because they were there, 2 EMAs, directors were there Friday morning dropping off trailers.
delivering stuff, yeah,
More Sunday.
picking it up. Yep.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about at the event, interacting with us when we're doing that stuff, learning how do we do things? Do they?
There's a visitor. Yeah.
But and it's not just ours, because I know the support we get from the Story County EMA.
Right.
And I appreciated the Boone County EMA trailer, but just overall, I mean, we just can't seem to attract people coming out for just a couple hours or for an hour, just talking to groups, getting to know what we do and how we interact with each other. And
Yeah.
particularly with so many clubs together at the same time, I would have really appreciated or thought it'd be a good
I
opportunity.
don't know.
And maybe it's not the time or place for relationship building too. I mean, I know that there's a phenomenal relationship between Hark and Dallas County.
Right.
They work extremely well together. They've got a great relationship. We've got a great relationship here with Story County. I think there's
I think they've seen enough field day to know what we're
We
doing.
know what we're doing.
You know,
I mean, our EMA was going so far as to make posters for us to
Yeah.
distribute on social media. So
yeah, if you saw the
there's
Uncle
that.
Sam poster, that was EMA that made that because they thought we needed a poster. So, yeah, yeah,
But that's
I-
the only reason that matters is for bonus points.
yeah,
So if we're looking at, we've got a solid relationship, not arguing with you, Ted, but I'm just kind of, I guess pushing back a little bit is if we're borrowing equipment that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're willing to set it up and pick it up on their time. They're making and publishing social media posts on our behalf. Even though we didn't get the bonus points, I think we succeeded on engaging with our served agencies.
yeah.
Well,
Not for them.
not for them,
We took it for the DNR.
for the DNR.
Yep, and
Which
you,
we
you
have
can't argue because we served the DNR when we did their 100th anniversary celebration. So, yeah, I never really got too excited about the bonus points. Like, I got behind the spirit of the point, but I didn't really care if we actually collected the points.
Right.
Right. With a lot of this stuff, is it really? I really more cared about, are we doing good things, and the points didn't matter, you know. So we didn't we didn't get credit for having a GOTA coach at the GOTA station the whole time, but when we needed one, we had one, and that's what's important. So, I guess that's it. I don't know, where are we at on time?
8:07, so we probably
Yeah.
time to
Yeah. So unless anybody has any final thoughts, there's something online. Let's see. That is George. George,
Yes.
go ahead.
All right. I had just a brief statement about EMA, county EMA. I know in my region, we've got Audubon, Carroll, Sac County. I know from talking to the guys that Carroll County has a problem with ham radio operations, and Sac County has not gotten back to me in the last 12 years about EMA and ham radio involvement. So trying to get in touch with some of these people that are in charge of the EMA to see what we can do to help out. I might need a little help trying to figure that out because we just don't seem to have a lot of work between the EMAs and the ham radio community out in my way.
Yeah. Yep. Good point, George. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's all the hands I got online. So, okay, let's shut this down for that portion of the meeting and do the business portion. So thank you, Ted, for putting that together. Really appreciate it. Took a lot off of me because I was working this week, and it was kind of a quick turnaround.